So, at the moment, the media are trying to portray a knife crime epidemic in the streets of London. It's always focused on London. Um, I'm also a mentor for a charity called Key for Life. So they say they refer to themselves as a rehabilitation charity. So obviously that's going to the prisons, start a relationship with people that want to join the program before they come out of prison and stuff. So there's a whole like 7-step model. So like my work with them is as and when. So not probably about a month ago now, I was doing an at-risk program with them under 18s as well, and you do football with them, you do canoeing, you do boxing, about obviously their self-esteem and also um, showing them the horrors of knife crime. So I was teaching them how to rap as well at a young group. So obviously build this rapport with the kids, with the young children. So speaking to some of the mothers, and they were saying basically in a certain estate in West London who Key for Life heavily work with. So obviously these kids are that are on these at-risk programs. I'm telling you, they look like they're good boys.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Good youths.
So they're not like the worst of the worst.
No, exactly. Yeah. You never you won't really have the worst of the worst in these kind of programs, isn't it? So it's obviously kids that are from around the way, also in between. Obviously, the beef that goes on in the ends in the hood. So yeah, I'm talking to the mothers, and they're saying how, like I said, innocent looking kids. I can see it for myself. They're saying how the kids haven't come out all summer because of how bad, obviously, the knife crime has been in the estate, and so obviously you associate that with people that are the hoodlums or whatever, people, roadmen, people that are beefing each other. Also, and then you also got the young people that live in these neighborhoods who are carrying knives for protection.
Mm-hmm.
So, but a lot of people outside looking in don't understand this.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Obviously, myself, I've been in for a knife as well, and so I don't condone in it, but I also understand it. Obviously, me, I was involved in certain things, and I was caught up in the hype, etc., etc. So obviously, like I said, you got two sides of it. You got the people that are actually caught up in it, beefing each other, and then you got the kids from around the way who are just trying to make it home, or who are just trying to make it home back from school, or make it home back from football, or but they got to go through the jungle to get home. So yeah, and it was like raw, and right now, and also what happened in Hyde Park. I don't know if you saw it.
I've seen the video. Yep.
Yeah, a bunch of boys like chasing one guy down with machetes, and that. Obviously they stabbed him up.
Daylight.
Yeah, broad daylight. And obviously, again, outside looking in, if you're not from that or around that, or know anyone that is, and especially if you're non-black, you might think, yeah, this is what black youth do to each other, or this is what black people do to each other, which is obviously false. But obviously we know as a people what's going on in our communities as well. So we've got to also be accountable for our own people, because we're getting stigmatized like that's what black people are about.
Boy, knife crime. There's a lot to say on it. There's many things have been said by many other commentators. I'll talk about just my experiences and my views on it. So obviously it's been an epidemic for say about 13, 14 years. 'Cause I remember around 2008, 2009,
Yeah.
when they were talking about it a lot. But knife crime's been around for time
Come
before
on,
that.
it's always
You know,
like,
I guess if you break it down, what is knife crime? If it's just people, people being convicted of carrying blades, that's been happening for way over 100 years, way over 100 years.
in London,
But
but Scotland for a long time.
exactly,
Had
but
the reputation.
this tag of what people know, this phenomenon of knife crime, uh, I'd say probably around 14 years, and it's strongly associated with with black youth. You you see that in the news, basically in the media in general. People think it's feral young black males carrying weapons and harming each other, and of course people are shocked by it, and so they should be in a what's meant to be a civilized society. And I deal with knife crime. We get people coming through the system a lot with knife offences. It's common, and I've seen it a lot over the last 10 years.
What colour have they been for the most part?
Uh,
I know it's a forward question, but
I've worked with people of all different demographics. Let me put that straight.
do
And
you
it's
get my
all
point? Why I'm
yeah,
asking
yeah,
this
and it's always going to be dependent in the
area,
area
of course,
that you,
of course,
but certainly disproportionately, it's been young black males. But I've also seen white males who, I'd look at them and I think, what, you were carrying a knife, really? What, you? And I'll be laughing in my head because I'm
Yeah.
thinking, you're not the perception that
exactly.
I've seen in the media.
Yeah.
Even though I know
Don't
that
judge about a scar.
it can afflict anyone, knife crime is going to be high around places around
Inner
areas
cities.
of poverty, and that's the pattern you will see. It's not.
Liverpool, Manchester, Birmingham.
And in Scotland, I think it was either Glasgow or Edinburgh. I get mixed up.
Yeah.
My bad. But I think it was Glasgow. Glasgow
Mhm.
was the knife crime capital. Was considered knife crime capital
Yeah.
of the UK back in the early noughties. I think
Yeah.
it was around
Yeah.
2002 to 2004, around that time. And their demographic is mainly white Scottish people in poor communities. And they had a knife crime epidemic. From what I understand, they paid lots of money into it. They paid lots of money and they reduced it dramatically, and it was quite successful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now London, I believe, is considered the knife crime capital of Europe.
Yeah. It's always had this reputation, but like you established, obviously, at Scotland, that was worse than London for a long time. But
Yeah,
London,
yeah.
just growing up, obviously, just growing up, obviously, in London, we grew up in people dying from knife crime. That was the norm. You're desensitized from it. It's the norm, you know. But there's still, I think, a false narrative there as well, to an extent. Obviously, that the media like to push.
Of course, and certain news sells better
Yeah.
than others.
Maybe it's a poor people problem. How about that? Maybe.
I've got no doubt. Yeah, I've got no doubt.
No matter where you go around the world,
yeah.
I'm sure wherever there's poverty, irrespective of their color.
No, definitely. I mean, that notion I used to hear with with Trident. I remember when Trident used to say in the media. For those that don't know, it's Trident being the police, the police arm, the Met Police arm that used to deal with gun crime
In the
specifically
black communities.
in black communities, and they used to say black on black violence, and I never really understood. It never made sense to me because black on black violence.
Because the way I see it is most homicides, come on, common sense. Most homicides that happen in the United Kingdom, who are these homicides getting committed by, and who on? Common sense tells you it's got to be white or white, right? Because black people, a minority, Asian people, minority, or minority groups. So you've got to think wider than just obviously the media doesn't help. Obviously, it's stigmatizing knife crime with black people. Like we're the only people that's doing the stabbings out on these streets. You see where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
And obviously, what doesn't help as well when you've got the deputy commissioner of the Metropolitan Police, Stephen House, who's saying that back in February, he said that police are going to continue disproportionate stop and search of black youth in London in the effort to combat knife crime in the capital. Bro, Dennis, can you please explain sentiments like that that's on the newspaper?
Well,
and it's just been legitimized.
Comments like
Hasn't
that.
it?
Yeah, I mean, comments like that, they're disappointing. But the first thing I'll say is,
what message are you putting?
The notion of black on black violence, it never made sense to me, because I think black on black is opposed to black on white violence. Why is it significant? But really, what it is, it's poor on poor violence.
Exactly.
Poor
Absolutely.
people killing poor people.
Absolutely.
And the pattern is, you will see that everywhere in the world, from the favelas in Brazil
100%.
to the slums in Johannesburg, to the inner city areas in Paris,
Exactly.
in Asia. It's always poor people killing poor people. Does anyone hear about black people killing each other in Bel Air?
Exactly.
I don't think so.
Black people that live in middle class areas killing black people.
I know it's only TV, but I never. I think there might have been one episode where Carlton wanted to carry a gun, but but it don't happen. It just don't happen in middle class areas, whether middle class black, there's a strata. There's a strata system in the US for black people. There isn't so much in the UK. It's weird. I mean, to say that you're a middle class black person doesn't feel like it makes sense in the UK.
Exactly.
But I know
we got a higher rate of middle class black people in America. Obviously,
Obviously,
there's way more black people in America.
Way more black people, and they've been more established for for a longer period of time to kind of climb up that ladder.
Yeah, of course.
So that's the first thing I'll say. Is poor people killing poor people.
100%. That's common sense.
Dennis, can I ask you something as well? Just in terms of your your career so far. Obviously, you've engaged and worked with a lot of different types of young people. I'm sure you've had multiple different conversations about the traumas they face, their family. Based on your work, your research, and just your experience, what would you say is, and I know this sounds quite generic, the solution to knife crime, but I just mean in these innocent, you're saying poor versus poor, so we know that resources is a big thing, taking away things like youth centres, etc. But what is the deeper rooted issue? Like, what do you think is, firstly, what is the deeper rooted issue, and what do you think the solution is to help combat knife crime, based on the conversations you've had with young people, just what you've seen?
It's such a big question. It's multifaceted, and it's not just one thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say, for example, the closure of youth centres has contributed to an increase in knife crime. I don't know whether there's any stats with that, because you can correlate it, but correlation is not necessarily causation. But let's just say, imagine this. Let's just say youth centres came back right now. Do you think the knife crime epidemic will just disappear?
Absolutely not. Times have obviously changed, and social media has taken over so much. But obviously, so I've worked with sort of young people as well in the criminal justice system, at risk, those that are in prison, and I always try and understand the deeper rooted issue as to, why do we have such a high level of knife crime, in London and surrounding. It's almost being mimicked. I'm not saying that it didn't exist in these other cities, the Manchesters, the Leicesters, etc. But
music as well.
The alarming rate of how it's increased is ridiculous. So, what do the young people actually say to you? Do they talk about it? I mean, what kind of message do you get from them these young boys and girls?
The biggest driver is always fear. It's always fear. You're only going to, from what I understand, you're only going to carry, the vast majority of the time, you're going to carry a weapon to defend yourself because you fear harm coming to yourself or people that you love. And that's probably the bottom line. People, the vast majority of the young people I've worked with, they don't carry a weapon and go out looking for trouble. They always use the word protection,
100%.
or some variation of the word protection. It's not. We don't accept that. I don't accept that personally.
But I've been there. So like I said earlier on, and I totally understand that. But obviously, you can grow out of it. But I totally understand carrying for protection for my personal, because I've lived, you know what I'm saying, a certain life and whatnot. So totally get, you know, what you're saying, but also someone that was once that person. I understand it, and it weren't like I was gonna go around, you know, trying to stab innocent people. No, you know. So that's where I can relate.
It's always fear. I totally understand why young people do it. So what are you fearful of? So you're fearful of being harmed by other people. Why?
Yeah.
Why are you fearful of that?
Are mostly in a gang as well. This is all connected to a gang.
Most of them, they're not connected to a gang. The ones that decide to carry knives, they really are not.
But in London, if you're talking about London, yes, yes, most people that are carrying knives, you're part of or associated to a gang, and it's normal. It's normal, but talking from experience, I'm not even here trying to preach.
So would you say were you in a gang yourself?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you were in a gang, because I hear a lot of young people who, just by virtue of living in an area, then that's their neighborhood.
What side
that's what they're repping.
This is what I'm trying to say. So you've got back to what I said earlier on about the sort of kids, the innocent kids carrying it for protection, and then you got the people that are actually in gangs that are actively committing knife crimes or whatever, however you want to look at it. So there's people carrying it for different reasons in London, bro. So that's what people need to know. This is what I'm saying. So there's this narrative that the mainstream keep pushing out there, and it's so false, because you got good kids, innocent youths that are like, whoa, I need to carry car. I don't want to keep getting robbed every day.
Yeah, I see that.
By these thugs.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But obviously, if you're not from that, you're not going to understand it. Like you said, you've dealt with people like, you know, you're laughing at them. You're seeing like, you carrying a knife.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
But he's not even a bad boy. He's not. Do you know what I'm saying? But he's carrying it because it's almost part of the swagger. Everyone else is doing it.
Going back to what you said about the innocent kids, though, I do feel like grooming as well. Would you say, Dennis, can play a role in innocent kids getting caught up or becoming just by the fact that they're actually living in that specific area? Does that make sense? So,
Mm.
How would you describe grooming in street terms then? Because you're right. It is essentially grooming.
I would. So I definitely agree. Grooming. There's so many. You know, right now, I think it's like the worst time to be a teenager.
absolutely.
In UK, I'd hate to be a teenager right now. So love to all of you teenagers that are just basically just living, just trying to get through life, and you know, because it's difficult, because there are so many things that to be fearful of, and I'd say grooming, yeah, certainly, people that will coerce you into doing things you don't want to do, yeah, and they're coercing you, or I'd use the word manipulating you into doing things that you wouldn't normally do.
Yeah.
And it's usually older people, but there's always a power differential.
And then
you
the
know,
fear as well plays into
and
that.
and the fear.
Yeah.
But I know from that life, most of these problems start from home. What's going on in your house, and is why a lot of these young kids are committing these crazy crimes out here.
There's no doubt about that.
I know you.
Yeah.
I know you know that from obviously working very closely with young people, and more so than I ever have, because I was that person.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people come from all sorts of dysfunctional families where there was no love, no love whatsoever. So this is what people don't understand, and you, in your line of work, you see it firsthand.
Yeah, we do. We see it firsthand.
That's not, you know, I'm not saying this is an excuse for anything, because people make it out from the hood every day. Do you know what I'm saying? Not most people don't. You know, you've got a choice in it. It all comes down to choice, innit? This is like me being a more mature person in my life. You know what I mean? And that's what it's about, maturing. But a lot of people won't mature from it. A lot of people are gonna fall victim. You know, I got friends doing life in prison because of knife crime. You know, but it was a norm. It was a norm. Like where we grew up. We grew up and people dying.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It was normal. You know what I mean? And so now the media's trying to say, oh yeah, there's a pandemic coming out. You know? So yeah, a lot of this is from home. We got people that I know people that used to get bullied in secondary school. After a while, there was, I'm not gonna get bullied anymore. I'm gonna start carrying a shank.
Yeah.
And he starts poking people up. Good youths. But it's like the environment makes people
But also you can
into like young people into monsters.
You can have a moral. I do think though, because some kids, everyone has a choice. No matter what, everyone does have a choice.
No, definitely.
And a lot of people have been in situations where they've had to defend themselves, you know, for whatever reason. But really, like you said, it starts from at home, but also the young person themselves. You know, really understanding who they are and having the right support around them. You know, individuals like yourself, Dennis, who commit to helping them change their life. So I think that's amazing. And you know, we need to obviously do more for the youths, really.
Yeah, but a lot of parents have failed kids out here.
Hey, you know,
and that's
the way I look at it.
It's a ripple effect.
The way I look
at parents, you know, there's a lot of them out there.
Every parent, no parent wakes up in the morning saying, I'm going to be a shit parent. Everyone's doing their best. And I always try and bear that in mind when I'm working. Even with the parents that piss me off, or they can't see, they really can't see that their child is like, you know, is really dangerous or bad.
Their benefits a lot more, can be benefits to it as well.